C100 is like a lighthouse, right? To give a path into the navigation through these large amount of wealth what's out there.
Welcome to the Wealth Strategy Secrets of the Ultra Wealthy podcast, where we help entrepreneurs like you exponentially build wealth through passive income to live a life of freedom and prosperity. Are you tired of paying too much in taxes, gambling your future on the stock market, and want to learn about hidden strategies for making your money work for you? And now your host, Dave Wolcott, serial entrepreneur and author of the best-selling book, The Holistic Wealth Strategy.
Hey everyone, welcome to today's show on Wealth Strategy Secrets. Today we are joined by Jan Petke, the founder and managing partner of C100 Global, a CentiMillionaire peer advisory board that aids wealth creators and their families in managing the complexities of wealth. C100 Global includes a family office group focused on the evolution and professionalization of family offices globally, and a rising leader group that supports future stewards of wealth. Today, we're going to unpack CentiMillionaire strategies for not only wealth creation, but wealth preservation, and also the importance of having a peer-to-peer group. Jan's philosophy is encapsulated in the goal of creating lasting, impactful legacies. Enjoy the show. Jan, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to have you here, Jan. Really enjoyed our discussions of late. And I know the audience is going to extract a lot of value from this discussion, really in multiple dimensions, right? First, in kind of talking about your wealth creation journey, how you see value for this peer-to-peer network within CentiMillionaires, and some of the challenges, right? First gen, second gen, really go through on that journey, and how you're helping to, support those. And for those, who aren't necessarily CentiMillionaires, there's still a lot to learn, right? Because they are some of the best of the best in terms of wealth preservation, wealth creation, right? And what can we learn from those lessons ourselves? So why don't we start with, how you really got here? Tell us a little bit about, your journey as an entrepreneur, as a wealth creator.
Yeah, so I would like to start with just an interesting discussion what I had. It was 2 years ago. I got a little paper, and the paper was described the CentiMillionaire report. And that was the first time I've got some of these paperwork. And until this time, the term was actually not familiar with me. Yes, the whole world is talking about the billionaires and the millionaires and stuff like that. And this report describes clearly, and it was from Henley and Partner located in Zurich. They took an outlook on this. They called it the new segment of the super rich. And it was interesting to read that this kind of segment of individuals and families is the fastest growing segment of the ultra wealthy individuals. And in this report, it was describing that over the next decade, we will see more than 50,000 centimillionaires. And they was describing also that most of these centimillionaires are these young entrepreneurs with a tech background and have sold their first businesses, and they are very young, between their 30s and 45s. And in many cases, these guys with their families coming from a poor background, they come from nothing. And it was interesting at this time. I've met also an entrepreneur. He has sold his business. He was in the mid 30s, and he have generated more than 160 million euros. And it was interesting because he described to me his uncertainties and his anxiety. Will this last? And how he can find the navigation through these fortune, through these growing assets. And he explained to me, Jan, listen, the whole world is talking with you about investments. you should invest in this, in private markets and stuff like that. But in the end of the day, he said to me, you sit alone. And in many cases, you feel a little bit stuck in the money game, and everybody is expecting that you jump on this investment train. And he recognized that the role as an entrepreneur, as a business operator, and the role as an investor, quite different. And I was asking him, because I was him approaching in regards of family offices and how he can run a family office and stuff like that. And he said to me, is there any opportunity to meet other wealth creators, other founders with a similar situation as myself? And I was asking him, do you have an ecosystem, other colleagues and entrepreneurs? And he said, yes, I know this. Can you imagine, that's a little bubble, right? But in this bubble, there are also, he called it, excuse me for the bullshit guys. And I was asking him, okay, can you describe this term for me? And he said to me, yet many of these young entrepreneurs have a huge liquidity event. And they jump on this investor train and they spend money there and there. And in the end of the day, they're only approaching to take advantage of you because they want your money to invest on things you actually don't understand. And he explained to me, is there any chance to have a little discussion about the other things? How I can develop my purpose, my legacy? What kind of philanthropic approaches can I select and stuff like that? And at this point, I've decided, okay, that should be very beneficial and valuable for this growing segment of individuals, that they have let's say, a room for an intimate and exclusive, not only in exchange, but in exchange with solutions, what I called. And I give you just a little view on my background. I'm coming actually from a management consultancy. I was a partner with a spin-off of McKinsey. And that gives me just my structure through my journey. And I was also with a private equity fund with the largest Australian bank called as the Commonwealth Bank of Australia. Here in Europe, it's called the First State Investments, and I was responsible for doing infrastructure investments. And that was the first touch point in private equity and raising capital and doing investments and stuff like that. But my clear sense is just what I've called these management strategic approaches, figure it out. How do you run actually a business quite profitable? And that was also my first touch point into family offices, not only on the investment side, more how can you run a family office like a business, quite profitable and not like an office, just as a business, as a second family business. And through these discussions with wealth creators, and many discussions, these topic pops up and say, okay, yeah, family offices are important for us. But take a look into our family office. The family officer is just our bottleneck, right? And how we can structure and our family office, that the family office itself fulfill our purpose and legacy. So that is just in a nutshell, if you want, my journey into this CentiMillionaire segment. And it's quite fascinating. But in the end of the day, it's what I recognize. There is a huge demand for this kind of groups on the one hand, and on the other hand, a huge interest to more family topics and questions, and rather on these let's say tactical skills in the financial world.
Yeah, that really resonates with me, Jan. I really spent my career as, in technology, business consulting for a lot of Fortune 100s, Fortune 500s. So, transitioning into this world of wealth, it is truly understanding, right, our constituents, which are, entrepreneurs, as you say, first gen, second gen, and really kind of understanding, the challenges that they have, the opportunities that they have, and then being part of a community. It can be so empowering, right? Because you get this, crowd-based solutioning, right, to solve their problems, have accountability, get different ideas and everything that can be really powerful. So it's really great that you've created that community. And I think the core problem, it's really education, right?
Right.
Because think about it, all of these topics around, purpose, family, legacy, wealth preservation, they're not taught anywhere. Everyone is focused on building their businesses or their families, but there's no education on this topic.
Right.
So
Right.
it's sorely needed. So is this what led you into creating C100 Global?
Yeah, I mean, there is on the one hand what I've recognized also. I can give you just a little example. I had a very very good discussion with a wealth creator. He has set up his own family office. He's Gen 1. And I was asking him, can you tell me a little bit more about your investment philosophy? And he said to me, what? What do you mean by this? Mm-hmm. And he said, I have a large amount of fortune on the one hand, and I invest today in real estate and tomorrow in private markets, and then I will look how it runs. And I said to me, do you really convinced that that kind of strategy will work over the next, let's say, 2 or 3 years? And he said to me, I don't know. And what I've also recognized, I mean, as better as me, actually, perhaps, that there's a huge ego, right? And in the end of the day, these guys they was successful. And what I've also recognized that on the one hand, the whole world of these advisors, lawyers, tax accountants, wealth managers, private bankers as well, have only a negative approach in regard of wealth, right? All these, excuse me if I use the term nonsense, these shirt sleeve to shirt sleeve, and do you know that more than 60% of these wealth transitions will be failed, and stuff like that. But if you have to take a look on this, I mean, there is no real research available that these data are very probably the right data, right? It could be, but on the other hand, ask yourself what kind of percentage of chance will be there that you will be face this kind of challenge. So I agree totally with you. There's a lack of knowledge, and also a positive discovery on wealth. What is actually the opportunities, what you can or where you can spend your wealth on, right? And rather only these negative stuff. And also, I can tell you just in another example, there was a woman from a generation 2. She have inherited the wealth from her father, and she said to me, "Yeah, listen, if you approach these lawyers and in regards of governance, they're talking only about these hard stuff. In the end of the day, it's just." She described this interestingly as a commodity, right? But on the other hand, she explained also to me that all these advisors want to avoid all these soft skills, the family itself. But she told me, and I agree totally with her, that there are the real challenges. right? And there are the real challenges to solve. And that's the core where the families look like. And that brings me just to the conclusion also to have a group, what I've called the tribe of strategic and enduring legacy building families. A group of families, they have the same vision in their mind, and they are value-minded, not only like-minded, value-minded. And that was also one example from a wealth creator that he was explaining to me. Yes, the whole world is talking about you should develop your legacy. And he explained to me, what is actually a legacy? What is it? Is it build up a dynasty, or what is it actually? And also coming up to the values and fill my wealth. I mean, in the end of the day, money is just energy, right? It's just a tool. And you should be filled this tool with the right kind of energy. And beginning in a discussion, what kind of purpose you can develop, right? And also what can be my own legacy, and what could be the legacy for our family. And in many cases, that is not an easy discussion, right? It could be that you have maybe a clarified strategy into your legacy, but how you bring your family on board. That is just where the challenges begins, right? And that you have also with the cleared mind, a right approach to the right investments. And that you're doing not 100 investments, maybe that you have a concentration on, let's say, 2 or 3.
Jan, how would you define wealth? What does it mean to you?
I say in many cases, and I mean, you are very familiar with this term, wealth is just more than money, right? That is what I've described previously, that money is actually, it's a tool, it's an energy. And you have the opportunity to use this kind of wealth in a positive way, but if you don't have the right knowledge, you have a great chance that you will fail or that you use your money in a negative way. And what I mean by this is just, if you clarify in your mind that wealth is just more than money, and from my imagination, there are many, many people out there that say wealth is everything or money is everything. Okay, that's fine, yes. But in the end of the day is, if you have developed your right purpose and your legacy, and you fill the money with the right purpose and your legacy, then you have just an other impact, greater impact on yourself, because you can invest in your skills, in your knowledge, but also for your communities, for your church, whatever you want, right? And that's just, in the end of the day, the impact. Wealth is just an impact.
What if everything you thought you knew about investing was wrong? Would you like to create a wealth strategy like the top 1% have and get exclusive access to top private equity deals that provide downside protection, tax efficiency, predictable cash flow, and have a lucrative upside? Discover how with the Pantheon Advantage and join our investor club today at pantheoninvest.com.
Right?
Yeah, couldn't agree more with that. And I think it becomes more and more challenging in this day and age because there's a clear bifurcation between the rich and the wealthy. And many people, all they see is the rich, the flash, whether it's the car, the house, the yachts, all of those things that are kind of in our face and feeling as if that's what success is. But that's actually, success on someone else's chessboard. Right. If you create your own chessboard and you have clear rules of what success and fulfillment looks like for you, that's wealth.
Yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point, what you mentioned. I had a discussion with a billionaire, right? And we had a discussion about, okay, what is actually to be wealthy and what is actually to be rich. And he said to me, from the money point of view, he said to me, you are wealthy if you have $1 billion or euros. And I asked him, can you describe this a little bit clearer to me? He said to me, if you really become a billionaire, you should be focused and you should have a clear purpose and legacy. And he said to me, from his perspective, that is what in many segments of these riches and super riches, they don't have just a clear focus or a clear purpose or a clear legacy. And therefore, it is just a great chance that they maybe fail over the next 2 or 3 or 5 years. And then that could have a negative impact for us as a society. Because I have a clear perspective also that we as a society, I mean, in the States and Europe and in each region of the world or globally, we need this kind of these riches and wealthy people, right? Because they have the capability and the power to change not the whole world, but they have the capability and the opportunity to change some important things. That's on a negative but also on the positive side.
Jan, do you have a particular framework or methodology with which you use in C100 to think about wealth?
Yes, we use also this holistic view on wealth. I mean, it doesn't new, right? It's just that we have a clear view on these, financial capital, intellectual capital, social capital, human capital, and inside of human capital, I've described this also, and we described this also, that the core is just relationships, right? If you don't have just the capability to build up and keep relationship, also in your family, I mean, that's just a difficult play, if you want. And also what I've called the cultural and legacy capital. And what I mean by this is that we, in C100, our approach is globally. Because that was just also a clear requirement of potential members, that they was asking me, is there any opportunity to meet just the family in Asia or in Dubai or in the States? Because in many cases, the challenges are the same if you face a large growing assets. But each culture will find different solutions and how we can participate from them. So therefore, from the beginning, I've approached Singapore. We will have just a chapter by the end of the day in Singapore. We have a chapter in Zurich. And also we will have, by the end of this year, a chapter in the States. It's just more to bring families on a global scale together, right? And that is just, from my interpretation and from my feeling, quite beneficial.
What have been some of your biggest insights on some of these wealth creators that have been, winning at the game? Where do you see success that the listeners can really kind of draw from?
I would use one term, and that is parenting. And what I mean by this, that is in each discussion and in each meeting, just let's say the main topic. Yes, you have discussion on investments. You should investments in this fund, or you should do this direct investments. But at the breaks and around this, in many cases, the question pops up: parenting. How I can raise my kids, right? And on the one hand, the great benefit is if you are between your 30s and 40s, probably your kids, let's say between 4 and 8 years old, right? And that's a great chance that you raise your kids, let's say, in a better direction. But this anxiety that one member explained his anxiety that he raised monsters, right? And I was asking him, can you tell me a little bit more about this, the group and for myself? And he described this on an easy example. He said if he is traveling on business topics, he used a private jet, right? And he was explaining, my kids see this, that I travel with a business or with a private jet. But what can I do that if I want to travel with my kids? Is it just that I use the private jet and my kids are following me with the eco class of a normal flight? Is this just the right recept, or what kind of strategy can I use? And also, there was another family coming up with the topic how we can teach and taught our children financial skills, that they can learn that the money is not coming from the cash machine, right? And I see this also in the Gen 2s. There is one member, he joined the group and he said to me, this kind of adaptation, if you are inherited wealth, is just a huge challenge. And he described, I was a consumer of our wealth inside of the family. Now I'm in the position of a producer. And he said, that's just a different role. And also in regards of his own legacy, he described how I can evolve our family legacy. And what is actually, if I come to the point that this kind of legacy resonates to my values, right? And that are just some examples on the core challenge, what we also discuss. And our methodology is that, yes, you have the opportunity that you can explain and exchange your challenges, but we have a clear agreement that on the end of each meeting, you have a solution. It could be a small solution, or it could be a solution on a broader picture. And you are asking for your accountability to implement this solution. And you have also the opportunity that you can use what we call the mentor concept, a mentor from another family, that he or she support you in a direction to implement the solution. And then you come back with the solution. And we will ask you, okay, what have you done? What was failed? What are the iterations? What are the improvements? What you can give us inside of the roof? And so each of these solutions will be improved, right? But also these mentor-mentee concept, that you have access to a mentor of another family, that in many cases these individuals have done these challenge and have faced this challenge and can explain to you what you feel. For instance, how do you run effectively a family meeting, right? How do you deal with the emotions of your kids, of your spouse, and that is what I found. That is a huge benefit, because in many cases, you know as better as me, actually, or probably that if you have this kind of fortune in your bank account, there's a great chance that you are very isolated, right? And that you don't have access to the right people to ask them, what could be the solution, and can you help me to implement this in my family, right?
Yeah. It's a massive challenge, and I know in our mastermind and virtual family office, this topic comes up all the time. right? And if you look at the statistics are quite startling that 75% of G2 lose the wealth that was built before them. And by G3, it's up to 90%.
Right.
So not only, passing on that wealth, but that legacy and how you can really, do that with your kids. And it's quite challenging, whatever age your kids are. And again, I think a lot of that stems from there's just that lack of education.
Mm.
At another point, I would add to your comment earlier, part of the problem really is that if you're in the 1%, somewhere in the 1%, all of these other advisors and all of these other structures are actually the 99% trying to give you the advice, right?
Right.
So they haven't actually built wealth. They haven't sold companies. They haven't done these things, right? So they have a completely different, mindset in terms of how they approach it. And to your point, you really need specialists of people who've been there and done that. And in my experience, that's why it's taken me well over 20 years to curate a very, high group of people that I trust who actually really understand these topics.
Yeah, and I would like add some important and some interesting point. What I've also recognized is, and it's actually not new, that many of these, or let's say more than 90% of these Gen 1 wealth creators are unprepared to be wealthy or to be rich. And I've seen this in one family. The business was sold. There was a large amount of money in the bank account, but they are in their heads and in their thoughts just are middle class. And there was an increasing anxiety, an increasing pressure, and there was 2 kids, and the parents have transformed the pressure in regards of the kids, and the whole family concept was moving to be unstable, right? And coming back to your point, it is just and it's just a little bit of my vision and also where I see my responsibility to give these individuals just access to knowledge. Not that I say I have the knowledge, no, but access to learn from others, right? And that is also, I'm not describing myself as a coach or as a consultant. My own description is just I'm an enabler, right? And a little bit of an educator, if you want. But I give access to this kind of education. And it's quite crucial. Because, I mean, if you take a look at outlook, I mean, we will see more and more quite rich families and individuals over the next decade. And they need help. And in my mind, it pops up one argument from a family. They have inherited wealth. And the wealth creator, he's in his 40s. He said to me, Jan, listen, this kind of challenges, we will see this in 100 years, in 200 years, in 300 years, because we are humans, right? In the end of the day, but we need help. And how we can trust, what kind of people have access to the right knowledge for us, that we find the right navigation through these challenges, right? And that's just, I've called C100 is like a lighthouse, right? To give a path into the navigation through these large amount of wealth what's out there.
Yeah, I completely agree with that assessment, Jan, that people are basically unprepared. And really, I would say at, whatever the net worth level is. And that's why we really talk about in our community, rather than having this maybe bucket list that you have in life, it's more about this be, do, have concept. So you could be actually being and doing the things that a centimillionaire, is doing. You could do that today, regardless of, what's in your bank account. And
Absolutely.
before you know it, you will actually be there. And that's how you will be prepared.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You're correct. Absolutely.
Yeah. So many good points. If you could give just one piece of advice to the listeners about how they could really accelerate their own wealth trajectory, support their families, live a true life of fulfillment, what would that be, Jan?
I would say number one is just your ego is not your amigo.
I like that.
Right? And that's in many cases the 12-pound gorilla in the room. And I want nothing out on this. Number two is consider to join a peer group. A peer group just for your indication or your consideration, what could be your legacy? I mean, it could be that you are a huge fan for nice investments. Okay, do it. But look for access to knowledge, for education. Educate yourself. What I mean by this is, because that's the sentence, educate yourself first. Also, transform your thoughts. That's just the third advice, if you want. Have a clear indication in your head that wealth is just more than money. And it is all about relationships and strengthen your relationships inside of your family. And also give your kids, your spouse, your entire family access to knowledge, that you have the capability to build up a noble family. I call it in many cases, take the opportunity and build up an extraordinary family with extraordinary values and for extraordinary impact. Because if you do so, you are the lighthouse for other families. And you want to be approached that other families, I mean, it's a great chance and a great opportunity that you want to approach not what kind of investments have you done, more how do you structure your family just in a professional manner. And it's just these three advices what I want to give you to your audience.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Really, really insightful. I love the ego is not your amigo. So that's really great. But what you're doing, I really applaud your mission, and just, for the audience out there to just reinforce that point of being a part of a community. Having mentors, being part of a community. We did this fun exercise in one of our communities where we took a paper clip, which this was a Joe Polish tactic, but we had everyone sitting at the tables. Everyone had one paper clip and got to write down, okay, how many uses of that paper clip do you have? And so people came up with a couple ideas to maybe 10. Then you spread that out to the group of 10 people that collaborated on the ideas, and we got like over 100 ideas.
Okay.
So
Great.
If you're looking for leverage and trying to be exponential in your thinking versus linear, being involved in a community that's like-minded, right, with the same mission is just super powerful. So
Absolutely.
Really appreciate that insight.
Yeah.
Jan, it's been such a pleasure having you on the show. Really grateful for your time and insights. And if people would like to learn more about C100 or how they can connect with you, what is the best place?
The best place is reach me out on LinkedIn. You can find easily Jan Petke. That's just the quickest way. And then have a chat about C100. And we are developing at this time our web presence. And but the quickest way will be via LinkedIn.
Outstanding. We'll make sure to link all of that in the show notes. Thanks again so much, Jan.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Wealth Strategy Secrets. If you'd like to get a free copy of the book, go to holisticwealthstrategy.com. That's holisticwealthstrategy.com. If you'd like to learn more about upcoming opportunities at Pantheon, please visit pantheoninvest.com. That's pantheoninvest.com.